Good evening. Over the fence. Are you ready? I am. To begin with, I would like to share the Society's land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the enduring and active relationship of Indigenous people with this land, specifically the area we inhabit today, also known as the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7. The Society as an organization is focused on the well-being of the land. We endeavor to honor Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis rights and relationships with the land, and the ability for all of us to grow, live, work, and play within this territory. So thanks for joining us this evening. I'm actually quite interested in our current guest. She's lucky I never stalked her. And I've been known to do that. So our guest tonight is Kailin Mercier, and she's with Ecologic Horticulture. And she has quite an interesting background and her reasons for doing this job. So I'm going to turn it over to Kailin and let her tell me a bit about what she does and what she's doing and where she came from.
Yes, yeah. Well, no, thank you so much for having me on. So excited to be here. And so I work in business development and client relationship management for Ecologic Horticulture. And so, yeah, like you mentioned, I have a bit of an interesting background,
Yes.
because I'm not a botanist or a biologist, but I'm really a long time lover of plants and, particularly native plants, I think just inspired by being outdoors and trying to bring, just the beauty that is there back to home and to enjoy that in our own yard and our own space. And so I've been with Ecologic Horticulture for, about a year and a half now. I joined right around the time that Ecologic was spinning out as its own business. And so for a long time, we've been part of Eagle Lake Landscape Supply. And so Eagle Lake, really was starting to develop a line of products with a focus on sustainability and naturalization. And so, it just, it made sense to spin that out as a separate company. And so that's why the Ecologic name might feel a little bit new, but, Nathan and our team, we've been around doing this for quite a while now.
And Ecologic was originally built around Eagle Lake turf, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're still neighbors with Eagle Lake. So,
yeah. They've been around over there for, what was it? I read in my instructions that they've been around since the 70s with the Hubers.
Yes,
and I've been out there more than one or two times.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So I've always been fascinated by it. And I visited about 4 or 5 years ago, and I noticed the fields across the way starting to transition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it kind of got me excited. You have quite a passion for wildflowers and wild.
Yes, for native plants, that's been my personal passion for a long time. And then, getting to join Ecologic, even in the past few seasons, we're really extending what we're doing with native plants. And so we've been growing our nature's turf for coming on 9 years now. We've been developing the native grass turf. And then starting last year, we're now growing individual native plants. So, grasses, wildflowers, you name it, and really just trying to make it easy for homeowners to have access
to have that nature's turf.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me.
Yes.
Tell me what kind of grass is in that.
Oh, you bet. So yeah, we have a couple different blends for nature's turf. And so taking our inspiration from some of the communities, the grassland communities that we see around the city here. And it's so funny because you can be driving outside of the city and kind of looking around and going, oh, that doesn't look that exciting. It all kind of looks the same as you're driving down a rural road, right? But when you get out of your vehicle and you can kind of walk amongst the grasses and the wildflowers that are there, it's pretty stunning. And so we have a couple different, we call them like stock or inventory blends that we grow. That we've got one that's a lower growing blend, and so you've got blue grama in there and some bunch grasses like June grass and Idaho fescue. So you get this kind of about that tall, kind of rolling, kind of prairie aesthetic. And then we also do a mixed grass, which is a little bit taller, that tall grass look. And then a riparian, which is really great if you have a site next to a waterway and you've got some grasses that, can transition from, wetter to drier conditions in there. And then what's really cool and exciting is just in the last a season or so here, we've been able to also start growing wildflowers in the same format. And so that took some trial, but yeah. So now when you're ordering nature's turf, you get like a seasonal kind of a seasonal selection of wildflowers based on what we could collect seed for the season before, like what had a really good season.
Okay, so can you walk on nature's turf? And will it take a certain amount of traffic of people walking across it?
It'll take a certain amount of
like
traffic.
the mailman?
Yeah, it's not as that's a good example. It's not quite as hardy for traffic as say like turf grass. Like turf grass was definitely developed for high traffic areas and applications like sports fields and golf courses, and native grass is just like they didn't evolve to take that same amount of traffic. So typically we recommend having like a walkway if you need some high traffic going through that space, and then trying not to put too much kind of pressure on top of the grasses. So, yeah.
You mentioned grandma grass.
Yes, blue grandma.
Blue grandma. It's got a blue tone to it.
Yes.
And it is about that tall, isn't it?
It's nice and compact. It's one of the shorter native grasses that grows around here.
And it's got a sort of a curve to it. Or at least that's what it kind of undulates, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it is quite beautiful. Even just the individual leaf blades have that shape, and the seed head just looks like a little mustache. Like
I recall something like that. That I find so interesting about them. And I honestly, I've been asked quite often about turf replacements and incorporating or not having a lawn. And the first topic I wish to bring up is clover, micro clover.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So you folks grow it.
Yeah.
Do you have any feedback on it, or?
I'm glad you asked. It's something we've been kind of thinking and talking a lot about lately because, for a couple seasons we were growing our clover turf, and so that was similar to our nature's turf.
Yes.
But it was a blend of micro clover, some fescues, because fescues are typically more drought tolerant.
Yes.
And then we had a touch of Western yarrow as well in there. And so what we were finding though, because it's interesting, our nursery in a lot of ways allows us to see how some of these the species that we're growing are going to behave, and what's going to thrive and where in different areas of the nursery. And so what we started to see though in our nursery was that the clover kind of became one of our hardest weeds to tackle. And so just being brutally honest about the clover, and we were finding it was spreading into our other turf products. It was spreading into a lot of our native plants that we were growing. And so we started to look at this and go, man, you know what? It's stunning. Clover turf,
it's really pretty.
It is. And when all, seeing a field full of it all in flower and all the pollinators, and you can just hear the bees buzzing, gorgeous. But we just were
more suited to acreage development.
With some room to roam, because we were having trouble just picturing it not becoming challenging in some urban contexts. Like if you've got, maybe a neighbor that doesn't want clover in their yard, or you're next to a natural space, right? And then you've got clover making a move into the natural space.
Well, that's kind of what I was, I've been hearing and talking to people, because for quite a while, I've always been a fan of clover.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a very large lot, and my dad loved it.
Yeah.
Plus, my mom kept bees.
Oh, so they loved it.
So it was a compatible arrangement.
Yeah.
But we were on a lot in such a way that it couldn't get past the sidewalks because we had a big corner.
Oh, perfect.
So it was fine. But if it went to seed,
Yeah.
The guy across the street got a little annoyed. That's why.
Yeah, so you kind of have to like, and we would do our best to try and just catch it before it went
Yes.
to seed, but it just, yeah.
So are you still producing
So
some
we're
of it?
not. We made the decision last fall that we just didn't, we just felt there was going to be some challenges with that in
Yes.
urban areas, and so we discontinued the clover turf. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of
and
our
that's
big
kind of
news.
where I wanted to get to was I've heard more than one person say that
You have to, okay.
yeah, you have to either have lots of room or be prepared. But if you raise bees, it might be fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about
Excuse
like
me.
the goals for your space, what's around you, and
Yes,
yeah.
and that's kind of where I try to explain that, and then I get, oh. So what is your favorite product that you sell or talk about? Or
Oh, that's a tough one.
oh, come
Tough to
on.
say. Yeah. I mean, I think this spring I'm feeling really excited about our wildflowers that we've got growing out at the
Mhm.
nursery. I think, thinking of lawn alternatives as well, like one of the alternatives, if you don't want to have a lawn, is a perennial garden too,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And
that's what I have.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've seen photos. It's gorgeous. It's stunning, right? And so I think that is one alternative as well, because
Yes.
sometimes I think we feel like if we don't want a lawn, that we have to choose one thing and still cover the same area with one thing, and we don't. That's not the case, right? You don't have to have
No.
a
No.
monoculture.
Our membership and our members and some of the people that have open gardens, they've
Yeah,
chosen to just do perennials and have these lovely pathways. You meander
yeah,
through it, and even now with a lot of the food growing, you can have your vegetables in, the whether you like them in rows or just
yeah,
scattered thither and yon, you can just sort of put plants around it. And
yeah.
that's probably one of the reasons that I like some of these.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and vegetables are really beautiful, right?
Sure
Like,
they
oh my
are.
gosh, a zucchini. You're like, this looks like an ornamental plant. My zucchini, so.
Well, I like them and I think they're quite interesting, but I like the pussy toes,
Yeah.
Antonaria.
Yes. That's your
It does
favorite?
well, it's one of my favorites because of the little pink flower, and it's about
Mm-hmm.
that tall, and
Yeah.
it flowers. And if you cut the flowers off every once in a while, you get more.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and I've bought the sedum tiles,
Mm-hmm.
and I have the mixed one.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I really like the mixed one, but I introduced pussy toes in between it, and it looks
Okay.
really really great. And
Yeah.
the gal that I'm doing DIY with this time has a landscape company, and they take these tiles and take them apart and just plant them around in clumps, and then they start to grow into each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was
Exactly.
saying that's one way to get a good looking alternative.
Yeah, exactly. Like the sedum turf, there was a yard that we did last year, and you can start with about 50% coverage of the sedum turf. And by
Yes.
the end of the season, it's looking full, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
so it definitely, you don't need to just, buy as many pieces as you have space, unless you want like instant cover right away. But if you're okay with it taking some time, no pun intended on this one, the time turf.
This is the stage the time is at right
Yes,
now.
yeah. So it's just
It's just
starting to
starting
green
to
up
fill
in
in.
the field.
But the fragrance.
Hmm.
I wish we had smell-o-vision. It's lovely. So I honestly, I'll buy a tile every year. Or well, now I buy 3 because I have 2 green roof birdhouses
Yeah.
and I have a bug hotel out front.
Yeah.
So I use them on there, and it's amazing. The bug hotel is populated by my sedum turf, but they come when they start to flower. The
Hmm.
dragon's blood starts to flower, and they're there.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
like,
and it's right there. But I take them afterwards, after the season, and I've been edging and filling in the blank spots all through my
hmm.
gardens, and they're voracious. They just fill in
Yeah,
beautifully. And the
exactly.
tones of them in the fall, that's the part I enjoy.
Yes, exactly. And
Is
with the mix too, you've probably got all different colors of
oh
flowers in
yes, I
there, right?
do.
Yeah, some
Yes,
white, some
yeah.
yellow, some pink.
I find it very eclectic,
Yes,
and
yeah,
to some people it doesn't appeal, but to me it does.
yeah.
Yet I do like a big solid, like I have thyme under the bug hotel that I bought a couple of
Hmm.
tiles one year, and it's spread beautifully. And starting in about the middle of June, it flowers bright, bright pink.
Yeah.
and it stays this wonderful cushion of pink and flowers, and you just run your hands through it, or the dog lies on it and it's fragrant.
Oh, yes,
You know, it's
exactly.
great dog deodorizer.
Yeah, you're like, if you could just hang out over here, that would
Yes,
be
yes.
perfect. So
Anyway, oh, what do
yeah.
we have?
Oh, we've got a poll.
100%. Do you have some turf grass? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
No. Oh, well, we got one.
Yeah.
We'll
I
convert you.
I still have a little bit of turf grass in our yard
Do
too.
you?
So we originally put it in because we have a dog, and we're like, okay, like we need some area for him to play. And then, but year over year, it's funny, like because there'll be, we don't water it a lot. It just we let it kind of do it, right? But we'll lose little bits of it, and we just kind of we're letting it shrink. So eventually, there's not going to be much back there for turf grass lawn.
Well,
So
my dog seems to be quite happy in the bark path.
yeah.
Or mind you, she thinks my drainage swale is where she should lay
Oh
in the
no,
hot
really?
And I pray no one's watering because she'll be soaked to the skin when she comes back in. And it's
Yeah.
always an adventure. But the one that intrigues me is the wild strawberries.
Yes, yeah. And I can see why this is on there because, you can be just, walking out in nature and there's these big, beautiful wild strawberry patches and nothing tastes better than a
The
wild strawberry. Oh, they're so tiny and there's so much work, but they you can't compare.
No, you
Right.
can't.
It's just absolutely lovely. So
Yes.
this is a really great concept. I think the challenge, or at least like what we found, is it can take some time to establish. But
Mhm.
you're probably not going to get that like instant, really thick wild strawberry patch.
Yes.
But I think if you get started and you want that as part of your cover, after a couple seasons, it's going to feel like you have it. So
Yeah, and someone told me that they only put in two plants,
yeah.
and now they have 6 or 7, and they make strawberry jam.
Yes, and that's lovely, right? And
Yeah.
now you've got a ground cover where you can go and like collect
It's
your own
useful
berries.
as well as
Yeah,
pretty.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
strawberry foliage changes color with the weather. Like as it gets cooler, it starts to go sort of a bronzy red. It's very
Yeah.
pretty.
And
Which
my
I like.
strawberries are already out. They're early too, right? Like
Yeah.
they start to green up and
Yes.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's nice.
I sat on my bench this afternoon in the sun and was admiring things that were starting to come up. And I was
Oh,
thinking,
yeah.
oh, this is exciting. But
Yeah.
it's the garden season and we're gardeners.
It is. Oh yeah, everyone's got the itch. It's April.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, what is the window for installing thyme turf? Michelle's asking that.
Oh yeah. So in the spring, we want to make sure it's got time to green up before
No
we make
pun
it available.
intended.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even notice that I did that that time.
I can't resist.
So we want to make sure it's nice and green and wide awake before you start installing in the spring. Both the thyme turf and the sedum turf, you just want to be careful that you're not installing them when they're fully dormant because they can't take as much wear and tear. Whereas, if they're awake for the season, then they're going to be a little bit more resilient for
Well,
that
this
install.
is just starting to fill in. And you only lifted it out of the field today.
Yes, I grabbed it on my way home from the nursery. So
What'd you do? Stop at the side of the road and pull one out?
I'm like, all right, we're yeah, literally right out of the field.
But it's so fragrant already.
It is, yeah.
Isn't it lovely?
Oh, someone had suggested the other day, they were like, you should grow Italian herb seasoning turf. So we haven't quite done that, but that would be very fragrant. All the herbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have oregano that grows and covers beautifully. And I like the Greek oregano, and it just makes this lovely mat.
Oh, see, there we go.
And it's fragrant.
Yeah.
And I really do enjoy it. But yes, sometimes we don't occur to ourselves that some of the herbs are low growing and they can take quite well.
Yeah, and you can start to build an edible garden and you're of things that you don't even think you would be able to go snack on, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what's really nice about this guide is I think there's the City of Calgary Yard Smart Guide is there's lots of diversity in here. There's some interesting ideas for ground cover and pussy toes, like you mentioned as well. Like there's native pussy toes that grow in this region as well.
Yes.
So yeah,
That was the first place I ever saw them. And I went, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a
Oh.
question. We have wild strawberries growing very close to a 60-foot evergreen. The evergreen branches were trimmed up high so the strawberries get sun.
Oh,
They need
amazing.
some water, but we are amazed at how hardy they are. Absolutely.
Oh,
They don't,
amazing.
yeah, but they don't have a deep root either.
Mm-hmm.
And the spruce grows its roots at the surface. So they're good. They're good sharers of property.
Yeah, and they like forested areas so that they're happy in the same kind of location in your yard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. I like that kind of look to it. But the one that you mentioned, the yarrow.
Yes, yeah.
Now, is that the shorter one, the one that you see, or is it the taller one?
So we grow the native variety of the yarrow, and so it can get a little bit taller. Like you can
Yes.
see flowers kind of like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, but a lot of the time, like if you're doing the occasional mow, you may not see too much in the way of flowers. Like a lot of the foliage is kind of like really the foliage is nice because it hugs the ground so
and
closely.
it's silvery and lacy.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It has
it's
this
such a pretty look to it.
beautiful texture.
Yes, and I mean, when I look at some of these, I go, "Oh, okay, I understand." You know, it's just one of those things. But I really like these brochures from the city of Calgary, the Yard Smart brochures. There's some really good information in the middle and a list, but there's some pictures of some of the most popular ones on the back with descriptions, and it'll give you some of the things that Caitlin and I are trying to talk about and discuss. And anyway, and then you brought.
Yeah, so I brought.
What is this one?
So this is a blood-good sedum. So what we're starting to do this year, because the one thing to think about with the sedum turf is there can be up to 12 different species of sedum in here, this little community that you get. And so what's interesting is, you know, I feel like every individual piece that we ship is a slightly different color based on the mix. Like, you know, you can see
that's why I like them.
You can see there's some burgundy in here, but just a little bit. And so sometimes, depending on your design, you might want to add some more diversity of color or even shape. You know, you've got like the hens and chicks kind of shape here as well. But what can happen over time in this sedum community is if you don't mow it or like you don't give it at least a trim once a year, some of the taller sedum will actually start to dominate the community. Yes. And so over time, what you can see is like, you know, you may receive it with about 12 different species in it. And then after a couple seasons, you know, you're down to just a portion of that. And so sometimes like, you know, kind of reinvigorating your community of sedum with some other species.
This blood-good is kind of always been a tiny one. It's not one that gets really huge like the foliage.
Yeah, exactly. And it definitely like will stay kind of stay lower to the ground.
And it's more of a ground color. But I covet this. You got them in?
We do.
We may have to talk.
The sample might just get left at the studio. Like
I see nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't bring it. So so we're gonna have about 12 different species available, and we tried to choose some that are different textures or colors than what's in our typical.
Because when you look at it right now, it's really dominant in the green, but you can see all the colors coming in and the fill in, and it may look like it's brown down here, but it's not. It's got a different varietal coming in.
Yeah, there's like some rose color as well in here. So
and that's what intrigues me about it. I enjoy that.
Yes.
And that, you know, honestly, I guess, well, let's face it, I like plants.
You're like, I have to admit something.
And so I look at the plant material that's coming in, and nothing used to get me more excited as when the perennial truck would come in.
Yes.
And the carts would roll off, and it was just this lovely barrage of different colors on every shelf. And all it was green leaves. There really were hardly anything flowering, and it was just the green leaves.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why I'm in horticulture.
I think you went into the right field.
Green just brings me joy.
Yes. Oh my God. I felt the same pull, right? So
Yeah.
I
So what is
totally
this guy?
understand. So this is similar to like a hens and chicks
Yes.
type. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And so, you know, you could picture a couple of those like in your community or just like next to your sedum turf to add some extra interest. So.
It's sharp. It's cool though.
It
And I
is,
really
yeah.
like the profile on it.
Yeah, and there's, you know, in terms of size, like we have a couple out there that are, you know, you can be about like that. And
Ooh.
yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
So the nice
Very
thing
nice.
about sedum too is they take a lot of their moisture from the atmosphere. So
Yeah, they're
you know,
not really, you don't
yeah.
really need to water them very often.
Exactly. So last year, you know, with all the water watches going on, it felt like there really wasn't anything that you could plant in your yard because you want to make sure you can water it in. And so this was
Yes.
one of the few things that you know, a homeowner could take home and just, you know, you place it on your soil there and you're all set. So.
Yeah, and it's sometimes it's just, oh, what have we got here? I know it is too early to work in the soil, but can I now cut down my winter interest, like my Carl Forester grass, down to about 15 inches, and the yarrow, etc.? Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a
Now's
great
the
time.
time.
Yeah.
And if the soil's a little bit dry, maybe stay off that soil till it gets a bit wetter, and then you won't compact it. And Carl needs to go right down closer, like it needs to be about only 6 inches, because then it'll come in tidier and it won't sprawl around the cut ends of it. You know, you want to keep it tighter to the ground and get all that brown out if you can. And don't go straight across at the bottom. Go in with your pruners and cut individual stems. I know that's time consuming, but you want Carl to be that big fountain. And if every year you just cut him flat, gradually the fountain isn't as exciting. He gets a little.
Oh, that's a good thought. Yeah, yeah.
And you know, the yarrow and everything, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The time has come. I ordinarily don't encourage it too much, but we're getting closer to Easter. We're also we've had the full moon, the pink moon,
Mm-hmm.
which is the grower moon, because that's when a lot of the wildflowers start, some of them start to come.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a little concerned about the fact that we're getting snow and then it's dry, and then we're getting snow and it's getting dry. So I do get a little concerned about compacted soil. But those of you that know me and love me, Good Friday is coming and I won't be available. I'm planting sweet peas. If it's dry enough, I'm planting my sweet peas.
Is it always on Good Friday?
Always either Good
Okay.
Friday, and if I have to miss that weekend due to snow in Calgary,
Yeah.
I will wait. But I've already prepped in that last fall. I made my trench.
Oh, perfect.
I've got it all ready,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got fresh compost, and I'm going to seed away. And actually, they always tell you only go about that deep. Well, I go about that deep
Mm-hmm.
so that they can grow up and they're protected.
Yeah.
And if it gets a little frosty, they can take it, just like peas can.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the pea flower is just the same as a sweet pea, except not as colorful.
Yeah.
But it's getting close.
It's
So
time.
as a result, I'm having a hard time in my house because
Mhm.
I want to go outside.
I'm feeling the same. I just feel like if I'm
Yes.
not outside right now, I'm missing out on something. I'm sure everyone's feeling the.
Michelle's asking, do you soak your sweet peas prior to planting? It depends on how dry the weather's been. I will sometimes soak them. It'll just depend. And I will do it overnight. And I don't just put them in a saucer of water. I put them between 2 pieces of paper towel and moisten the paper towel. And that way they get a nice moisture all the way around. And you're not going in there in the middle of the night and turning the sweet peas.
Mm-hmm.
That drives me crazy. So I put paper towels and I do soak them. It just depends on how dry it's been. I think this year is going to be pretty good. I think. But I'll let you know on Thursday.
Official sweet pea update, right?
Yeah.
I think it's time for my peas to go in. So
Yeah, it is.
That's a good. Yeah.
You
that's
know,
a good cue.
the sweet peas, the peas, it's nothing wrong with trying some spinach.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have quite an edible garden you built a greenhouse.
Oh yes, well we converted a shed into a greenhouse, so
Yes.
that was a bit of a project.
Yes. Uh-oh.
Oh, that's me.
Just time, please.
Sorry about that. I should have.
That's all right. Okay. So you built a greenhouse and you're growing food crops.
Yeah, so yeah, converted. We had an old sort of studio shed in our backyard when we bought our home, and so I think at one point it was intended to be an art studio, and so but they'd never quite finished it, and so we looked at that and went, okay, yeah, no, it needs to be a greenhouse. So we actually took off the roof and we installed greenhouse panels instead, and it's got glass doors and windows, and so
So
yeah, it's a
what's
bit
in
of an
there right now?
unconventional. So at the moment, I've got tomatoes going.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got tomatoes going. I've got some onions, but that's about as far as I've gotten. This spring we've been so busy out in the field at Ecologic. I'm getting home and I'm going, okay, now it's time for the home garden. So
Having worked in the industry as long as I have, I know what you mean. You
yeah,
know, everybody else is planting and I'm standing in a garden center. Well, you need to do this and you need to do that. But you were
yeah,
wondering, one of the things that Ecologic does is
yeah.
grows
Here, I'll hold that if you want to
grows
pull that out.
shrubbery for land reclamation and for,
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
yes,
we have willows and poplar. We've got a mother bed out at our nursery that is in its 4th year, and so willows and poplar are really fantastic for reclamation because they're natural food for beavers, and so there's this like interesting evolution that's happened where beavers will chew down these plants, they'll eat them, they'll float away, and then they'll find a place to propagate again, and so they propagate really well from cuttings.
yes.
So when we go to restore an area like along a riverbank or a wetland area, you can use cuttings that come from willows and poplar to do that. So yeah, so I brought some cuttings from our mother bed here. This is basket willow. So
Yes,
it's
it's
yeah,
really
they're
but it's leafing
yeah.
out in the middle of the country. So,
Yes, yeah. And so it kind of like it marks our transition here.
and they get into water and wherever their leaves join the stems, that's where they'll put out roots and they just naturally root.
Yeah, they produce their own rooting hormones.
Yes,
So you could, like, if you're, say, soaking other woody material and you want it to
yes.
root, you could throw some willows in there and then there'll be rooting hormone in your
Yeah,
water.
and the
So
things around the cuttings will root.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
They're pretty amazing in what they do too. And
and they're a
so
good natural rooting substance.
yes,
So,
yeah,
not substance, material.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what I like about them. I always, way back, you go into some of the older growing operations in central Alberta, and they would have plants rooting and they'd have willows stuck all around it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you do
Oh,
for the cold periods in the spring if you have plants in your greenhouse?
oh no, that's a great question. My partner always bugs me because I'll sometimes be moving plants in and out if there's like a cold snap. At least my personal greenhouse, anyways.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a project early season when the weather's not quite there yet. I don't have a magical solution. I wish it was a heated greenhouse. It's not. But yeah, I think sometimes I err on starting a little bit too early and then I'm moving things inside and out when
Oh, yeah,
it's
but don't you all?
cold. Yeah, yeah,
I used to have, well, I used to have a 2-car garage. It's become a 1-car garage.
yeah.
And my husband and I used to fight over whose car would get to go in the garage
Oh,
because
really?
about this time of year, I had a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of plywood
Yes.
and it had wheels and a rope, and I would haul it out on the driveway
Uh-huh.
during the day and put it back in the
Oh,
driveway overnight.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And it's worth it.
everybody has their methods and stuff. I don't have that sheet anymore,
No?
mostly because I think it got, well, I'm pretty sure it got disappeared on me.
Yeah.
Okay, are there willows that do well in dry gardens?
Oh, good question. Yeah, so there are some species of willow that like drier conditions than others. So your Beb's willow, even your basket, like will tolerate some drier
Well, it's
drier
a native, is
conditions.
it not?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
exactly.
Bebs is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, your Beb's in your basket. are two that don't mind that. Even like your yellow would be okay, as long as you've got lots of moisture when you're establishing them is really
Yes.
the important thing, right? And you want to make
Yes.
sure that they're nice and well rooted.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically in nature, like there are some willow species that occur like right next to the water, so you'd want to avoid those, like your sandbar. It's probably
Yes.
not a great choice.
No, it isn't.
And it's a spreader. Yes, sandbar is
Yes.
not for the garden.
No. No.
But there are some species that are a little more like tree-like in their growth habit and beautiful and quite beautiful. Pussy willow, like Salix discolor, is one, and that's where we get our beautiful kind of willow stakes in the spring with the big fuzzy catkins.
Yes.
And that's a native
And those
species.
stakes are
Yeah.
basically for land reclamation and rebuilding river.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will we'll actually just cut live stakes, like 1 meter, 1.5 meter live stakes for reclamation. They're planted right in the ground, but we'll also take small cuttings and we'll propagate rooted willow material in our nursery too. So you can buy it as a plant as well. So yeah, it's pretty versatile.
Well, I brought home some curly willow branches.
Okay.
And I was told they didn't grow here.
Yeah.
Well, I was up in the north in a community garden, and I cannot for the life of me, Albert Park? Anyway, north. And they had right beside the community hall, they had a shrub, and it was curly willow.
Oh,
And it was
okay.
doing beautifully. So I brought home a couple of branches, and I took one and just put it in the ground, in the middle of the ground. It doesn't have a real home because it's now just living. And I hate to say it, it's now about 4 feet tall, and it's going to be big. And
You're
the
like,
branches are curly.
yeah.
So,
Oh, that's so cool. So it propagated from that
right,
cutting.
and
Oh,
I didn't
amazing.
really do anything.
Yeah.
I brought them home from a client's Christmas container. And I brought them home and
Yeah.
I put it into the garden. Well, I just went out, the snow had fallen and it was still really frozen. And I found one spot that had a bit of sun on it. It was a bit dry and I shoved one in and there I am.
Yeah.
So now, 4 years later, I've got this and I'm afraid it's going to be a tree.
Yeah.
So I'm having the discussion this year that maybe I'll put it over back by the fence.
It
in
needs
the
a new
corner.
home now, right? Yeah.
Because last year I sort of wobbled it around and great root system,
Yeah.
really good root system.
Wow. Okay.
So-
So you're look at that. You're all set for doing restoration work.
Yeah,
You're
with a
like,
curly willow, it's not
not
hardy.
the curly willow, but
But you
but the
guys do
technique.
dogwoods as well.
We do, yeah. It's interesting. Dogwood we find it propagates better from like a whip than a large cutting. So
Yes.
dogwood is a little bit trickier than willow or poplar. Whereas it sometimes feels like willow and poplar, you can do no wrong. But yeah, we certainly do propagate some dogwood as well. Some
Well,
native dogwood.
some of it's native to around the area.
It is,
so
yeah, and it's beautiful. Like
yes.
the color in the winter, the fall when the leaves turn red. Like it's just a really nice shrub to have in the landscape, and it's native, so the pollinators are happy. And
and they do enjoy it. And people say, why do the pollinators like it? Well, they do flower.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you know.
Yeah. Like even willows are one of the earliest resources for pollinators.
Because that's what the little pussies are about.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so-
These guys don't quite have pollen yet, but there's
They're starting to get there. And I mean, this guy and his leaves are just amazing coming out now. And that's great. But down in the crevices, the pollen is usually in there. In the seed crevice.
Yeah, and we start to see pollinators in the willow, and then Saskatoon's the next one that's really great, like native Saskatoon for pollinators with the big white flowers and
in our garden these days, you find that you want to plant a few more shrubs because your garden isn't as big.
Yes.
So shrubs make good places. Oh, Michelle.
Oh.
Have you ever made a dogwood fence? They are popular in Vancouver right now as a low fence. And I was wondering if you had to make cuts near the nodes to get the stems to root.
Oh, that's interesting. I have not made a dogwood fence. I haven't made a living structure out of willow yet, but I've been thinking about doing that. I think that would be a really neat project if you start it and then you can weave the willow as it grows into.
Well, the dogwood has the same growth pattern on its branching as does a willow. So not necessarily that you have to cut it right at the nodes.
No, the trick we found with dogwood
Yes.
is, willow will typically, like, we propagate quite thick cuttings, like 20, 10 to 20 millimeters
Yes.
diameter. Exactly the same method, exactly the same cutting size with dogwood, and we had a very, very low success rate. So we've had better success with the smaller cuttings, like the whips, the tips of the branches. So if I'd have to take a look at the fence design and just try to find that balance between, the larger material is less successful, the smaller material is more successful, and then how would that work
Yes.
if you're trying to start a fence? Maybe that's okay, and then you just know that it takes time for that material to
But dogwood's pretty good.
establish.
Once it's established its root system, it can
Yeah,
put on a foot and a half a year.
yeah.
That's probably what makes it so popular in Vancouver.
Yeah, true. And
You know,
Vancouver's got, like, they have some moisture there for doing something like
Yes,
this, right?
but
So,
there's parts of it that don't get the moisture, and they still
and there's
apparently.
still
I've
dogwood
heard that.
fence.
Yeah.
I've got to look that up when I. Oh, thanks, Michelle.
Oh, good one.
Oh, okay. That's not what I was picturing at all.
Well, I kind of
Very
had seen a
cool.
picture. Ooh.
All right,
Okay,
we're
let's
zooming
make.
in.
Okay, we're gonna make dogwood fences.
Yeah, this needs to be a workshop.
Yeah. Can we come out to your place and do it?
Oh yeah, I'm like, we'll make some dogwood structures at the nursery. Oh, that is really cool.
Very exciting. And look at that red bark.
Oh, isn't it beautiful? Or
yeah.
like hot pink. Sometimes it looks hot pink to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way they're taking both ends, because that does ensure good rooting if you
Yeah.
root both ends.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
I haven't seen a dogwood hedge done like that since France.
Oh, did you see one over
I've
there?
seen them in
Oh,
France.
nice.
That is cool. I never even
Oh,
thought of that option.
that's so beautiful.
Okay, so Michelle, are you going to put it on the corner at your house?
Yeah, we need a location.
We'll be waiting. It's that, or we're going to have to do. Oh, sure.
She's like, I volunteer. This is perfect.
And then you can invite us out, and we'll make a hedge.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Or I've seen someone make like willow chairs, and they plant the willows, and then they make
Yes,
chairs out of. And I was like, we need like a little area at the nursery where we have all of our furniture, our hedge.
Yeah, and birdhouses.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
a little like seating area in the mother bed.
Okay. It's on.
What's that?
It's on.
It's on. You're like, this
It's
is
on.
happening.
We'll just have to. So, who does the growing? Who's your grower?
Who's our grower? Oh,
Yeah.
well, we get a lot of our guidance from Nathan, for sure,
Okay,
out in the
yes.
field, and our nursery supervisor, Neri. So
Okay.
Nathan and Neri, I get to join for a lot of the propagation as well with the team. So that's lovely. I quite enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You almost don't want to go out on sales calls.
Yeah. Well, what's nice sometimes is having clients out to the nursery too, right? So you get to do a little bit of both at the same time and
Oh.
that sort of thing. So
Oh.
yeah.
Oh. Okay. Well, it's not that far from the city. We should have a little.
If you like, do you do over the garden fence on site?
No, but we could
okay.
figure. I could come up with something.
Okay, yeah, that'd be lovely. We know we're.
Do you do plant rescues?
Oh, I love this question. So yes, we've been out quite a few times with the Alberta Native Plant Rescue Group. So fantastic group of people, and we'll go out and either like collect plants that we can establish a mother bed at our nursery as well, like rescue those plants. Or we'll go out and collect seed. And so, are you familiar with the plant rescue?
Yes. Yes.
You are? Okay,
Yes.
awesome, perfect. Yeah, so it's a nice opportunity because those plants could sure use a new home to be able to preserve those genetics. And so I think what's really neat about it is a lot of a lot of new developments. There's plants in place, and then they develop an area, perhaps a new neighborhood. And then by going out and collecting some of that material, and then we propagate it,
Yes.
it's like that homeowner, if they wanted, could go and get, plant material that
Well,
was
the Friends of
on
Fish
site.
Creek
Yes,
have done plant rescues.
Emma and her team just do
Oh,
amazing
they're amazing.
things.
She's quite the person.
Yeah.
I have an FYI on there. You can learn more about it at the June members talk. So that would be a good thing to go and see. So
Oh,
I'll just have
perfect.
to write that in my diary and put an alarm on my phone so that I remember. But
Yeah.
I was wondering, at this time of year, do you guys get really start to be agitated about being ready for the season? And
It is very busy at the nursery right now.
yes,
So yeah, I mean, we've been out because we start willow collection end of February, March. So we've been out there for a while, but I just feel like all of a sudden you're like, it's April. We like,
yes,
there's lots, and
yeah,
it's warm enough now that we can start, doing some planting activities that we couldn't,
yes,
couldn't do when it was wetter and colder. And
yes.
so yeah, I would say things are in full swing until mid end of May right now. So and then we'll take a breather. Maybe July, August, we'll take a breather.
Well, everybody needs a little bit of a break,
Yeah,
and
exactly. So
I'm so excited about seeing this that you guys are going to be at the garden market.
yes, we are. We are so looking forward to it.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Last year was our first year exhibiting as Ecologic. And so it was nice just to be there and, kind of share what we had available and have some good
Yes.
conversations. And
And are you going to bring stuff to sell?
we are this year because last year we didn't.
No,
And
and
then we
someone
had,
arrived on my doorstep with some because I complained.
well, yeah, we
I
had
think it was Nathan.
we had quite a few inquiries as to why it wasn't for sale. So so this year we're gonna have sedum turf, we're gonna have thyme turf there. We'll have some native grasses; those tend to green up a little earlier than the wildflowers. We'll have some native seeds. So
And you'll have backup in the truck?
willows. Yeah, yes, we will. Yeah, I think Nathan's son's gonna help us out. So we'll have a
Oh.
truck and maybe a trailer parked out front, and we'll have all sorts of goodies.
So the garden market's on the 26th of April, and I'm looking forward to it. I can hardly wait. There's something about the garden market or the early spring show that all of a sudden there's 100 million gardeners out there with us. And we
Yes.
get to, you stop and you see old friends and you
Mhm.
get to chat about it. And it's really fun to hear the crowd, the buzz
Yes.
as it goes. And the talks this year will be very, very interesting. I think that we will probably have a good attendance. All the booths are sold.
I
So
heard that. Yeah, it's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
full.
it's going to be a
So
full thing, and there's some really interesting talks going on
yeah.
upstairs. And the kitchen will be the chefs. They're going to make coffee this year. Yay!
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could go for some coffee.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Anyway, there is a list of it on our website with who's attending, who the places are. But I'm quite looking forward to it just because you get to see all your old friends and you
Yes.
there's a lot of hugging.
Yes, exactly. I know it feels like everyone's been separated for the whole winter, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I do see quite a few people as it goes on, but I get really quite. So what's going to be
Yeah.
your favorite product this year?
Oh, favorite product. Tough to say. I mean, I think the sedum turf is always
Oh
the
yeah.
highlight
Yeah, for me.
at the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be the shining star. We're gonna have lots of sedum turf there. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be yours as well.
What's that?
What this one will be your favorite app?
Well, I'm excited. We're gonna have a native seed display there for the first time,
Ooh.
so that's exciting. We've been working with a local illustrator for some artwork for the packages, and so she's kind of doing some botanical illustrations with us. So it'll be our kind of debut of
Of
our
what you're
native
doing
seeds.
with your native seeds.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. So what's the newest vegetable you're going to grow this year?
Ooh, you know what? I gotta be honest. My home garden this year has just been taking a back seat to what I've been doing at the nursery. I feel like I've
Hmm.
been letting it. I'm going with my standards, like the ones I know are good performers. at
So
home.
what produced the most for you last year?
So last year had really great luck with tomatoes, a good crop of potatoes, and then peas, just like fresh garden peas.
And you
cannot go
succession
wrong.
sow them, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
have to have peas all across the year. So
Yeah.
yeah, oh
Well,
my
that's
gosh.
how I look at it. And I always do a short row and then I just keep adding to the row,
Yes,
or I twin
yeah,
the row,
yeah, exactly.
like I'll do them back to back sort of thing. And then you just have to figure out how to pick the stuff at the back.
Yes.
You know.
Well, and I usually have good luck succession planting. I do peas in the early season, and then by the time those are up, it's time for beans. But I just felt like last year we were just getting peas for a really long time, and yeah, I mean, not a terrible problem, but it just felt like the season wasn't long enough to do peas and then beans in the same
Well,
place.
the beans were good last year, except that with the heat and the dry, they seem to hide under the foliage.
Oh, interesting.
The
Yeah.
number of people that went to take their garden out and pulled the plants, and there was all the beans under the foliage.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're planting, I always tell people, you got to look under the leaves. It's like planting squash.
Oh, every time I'm just like, where did you come from?
Yeah, were you hiding?
Yes. And you think you have no squash, and then you go to take everything out. Yes.
Well, yeah, my patty pans, I always think that I have them all, and I lift up a leaf and there's 3.
Yes.
And I, so it's part of it. But
it is. It's part of the experience, like the little surprises. And
yes.
I found some carrots that I missed last year when I was in the garden. I'm just like, how? But
anyway, messaging over the garden fence, April, with, I can't read it, Deb.
Oh. That's the default chat.
Oh,
box.
Okay.
There's nothing new there.
There's nothing new there?
No, someone needs to type in
a message.
A question.
Oh, all right.
Any questions we missed? Any other questions?
Yeah. Anything
Ground
else
cover?
we can? Yeah.
Yeah. Did we cover all the ground cover types? I think we did.
I think we got them. Let me get my sheet back, because I was worried about the thyme having cover on it. Okay. Oh, the fescues.
Yes, yeah. So fine fescues. So that's a nice alternative. So we're seeing more, more seed mixes or more sods that incorporate fescues in with the Kentucky bluegrass.
Yes.
Kentucky bluegrass has that nice kind of fat blade, but it needs more water. It needs sunlight. Whereas the fescues, they have a little bit of a thinner blade, but they're more drought tolerant. So if you can incorporate some of those into your lawn, then, if there's times where you have to water less, you still can keep things a little bit greener.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which, we felt that last season for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm always interested in what's new in the fescues.
Yeah.
I mean, because it used to be just wrote that you said creeping fescue, Kentucky blue, and a little bit of annual ryegrass.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
When it first came out.
Yeah.
But now it's what kind of fescues are we growing? Because they are the most drought tolerant, and they're the ones that you want to do. Oh, do you grow the sheep's fescue?
We don't any longer. Eagle Lake, though, I believe they've got like a fine fescue sod blend that they grow.
And it's got sheep in it, doesn't it?
I think there's sheep in their fine fescue blend. Yeah, yeah. So they were actually one of the first turf growers to develop a fine fescue blend and to fully grow that out. So
yeah, Eagle Lake has always had that.
Very innovative, right?
Very innovative.
Yeah.
The Hoovers are pretty
Yes.
amazing on some of that stuff. So it's worth it. So the gardener's market is come. Oh, wait a minute. Lois wants to know, can I prune my romance cherry tree now? No. You're a little bit too late. They usually should be pruned in March, February, March. Now, what's happened is that they are setting up their blossom time and they're ready to start flowering. And if you cut them, you change the flowering pattern. So no, either do it after they finish flowering a little bit, but in the warmer weather, you don't want to expose the open surfaces to diseases. So you have to be very careful about how you prune.
Thanks everyone who joined.
Yeah, thank you.